El ritmo de cambio actual, impulsado por las nuevas tecnologías y aplicaciones que están transformando lo que conocemos como normal, es más rápido que la habilidad natural de la humanidad de cambiar. La industria financiera en América Latina se enfrenta particularmente al desafío de cambiar, de transformarse, de adelantarse al tren tecnológico que avanza a toda velocidad. Para transformarnos, debemos aprender nuevas maneras de operar, de comunicarnos y de comportarnos. Debemos desafiar nuestros prejuicios, nuestras creencias heredadas y abrazar las posibilidades que brinda la innovación, por nuestros clientes, nuestros colaboradores y por nosotros mismos. Y lo más importante, debemos aprender unos de otros. Y es por eso que Fintech Americas creó Fintech Americas TV, el canal de eventos digitales de Fintech Americas, que ofrece semanalmente la programación más completa y relevante sobre transformación digital para la industria financiera en América Latina. Desde nuestras conferencias virtuales semestrales, los deep dives sobre temas críticos, hasta Inside Access, nuestra reconocida serie de webinars sobre tecnologías de vanguardia que marcan la diferencia, FATV está siempre encendida.
Well, good afternoon, our community. I hope you all are having a wonderful week so far, and it's great to see so many of you with us in this program. As you know, this program will be in English. However, you can leave your questions in Spanish. O sea, este programa será en inglés, pero también sus preguntas y demás, y toda la interacción puede ser hecha también en español. To our returning FA community members, thank you for joining us for another exclusive episode of The View from the Edge. And those who are joining for the first time, welcome. It's great to meet you. I'm Maria Mancuso, President of Fintech Americas. And our program today, for those of you that are new, provides a cold and bold look at the hottest topics and trends in the financial industry and what you and your bank need to do about them. The View from the Edge was created to dive into the truth of leadership, adaptation, innovation. And who do we have for that? Our famous Chris Colbert, former managing director of the Harvard Innovation Labs and chairman of the board of Fintech Americas. And he can help you along this journey. So we are here to help you and your organization get ahead of the pace of change, but not just to survive. We want you to thrive. And talking about hot topics, what we have today, maybe just one of the hottest, topics on the sun. And yes, it's all about artificial intelligence. It's an inspiring realm where machines simulate human intelligence and reshape the way we live, work, and interact with the world around us. But I think what makes this topic truly fascinating is the question everyone is asking and does not have a single or definitive answer. Throughout history, we have seen AI rise from the realm of science fiction into reality, making leaps and bounds in various fields. It has enabled groundbreaking advancements in healthcare, revolutionized the way we communicate, and empower industries to achieve what only was imaginable. However, amidst the excitement and promise, there have been questions, concerns, and even fears about the implications of AI. Some worry that it could replace, human jobs, invade our privacy, reduce productivity, or even pose existential risk to humanity. But today we aim to challenge the notion that the matter of AI is as simple as binary choice between human versus machine, good versus bad, beneficial versus harmful. So today's program is not a monologue. In fact, it's the opposite. And we love interactivity, questions, queries, and challenge to everything that is being said. So if you look at your screen, you can see that we have in the chat tab, this is where the questions go direct to our host. Please do not be shy and ask away. Again, the questions can be asked in English or in Spanish. Throughout the program, we will also be using poll questions to contribute to the conversation. So again, please provide your feedback and your votes. We love to hear what you think. Well, now enough of me. I'm delighted to welcome Chris Colbert. Chris, welcome.
Hello, Maria. I have to say, I love your intros. I love them. It was well done, well delivered, and I think you already answered the question. Is there is no single answer to the question of what is this AI thing all about? So anyway, I wanted to appreciate you for being you.
Oh, thank you. Well, we appreciate it, and we love to have you. As you know, I think once a month we always get so many queries and people asking for you to speak to them, to present to their boards, we know the traction that you get. So, well, thank you. We always appreciate that you are doing this. Because again, and the community and artificial intelligence, oh my goodness, if there is a hottest topic, I think our opening rates spike whenever we say something about artificial intelligence. So
it makes crypto look like a short-term fad.
Oh yeah, we noticed, with crypto, okay, the opening is, but artificial intelligence, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, let me. I think to the audience, thank you for joining us, and thank you to the FinTech Americas team and the FATV team for putting this on. We're going to do this the way we've done the prior view from the edges, which I'm going to do a sort of short presentation, my point of view, for probably like 25 minutes or so. I'll try to do it quickly. And then Maria might interject along the way with her questions or questions from the audience. So we do encourage you to do that. And then there will be a couple of polls that we'll do to get your point of view on different aspects of the topic. And before I share my presentation, let me just say, I don't have the answer. Maria doesn't have the answer. Nobody has the answer. And I think what this is all about, frankly, all learning, all advancement of society, of our companies, of our countries, requires dialogue and debate. Like this idea that there's a single answer to these complex questions is actually somewhere between naive and just downright wrong. So all we want to do today is provoke some thinking and provoke some conversation. And it's the first of many conversations. By the way, we're obviously going to have a huge track on AI at the Miami 2024 conference in May in Miami Beach next year. So much more to come. So let me go ahead and share my slide, if that's okay. Hold on 1 second. Everybody see my screen?
That's it. Yes.
Okay. Here we go. So I mentioned the polling thing. We're going to do that, but again, throughout my talk, please go ahead and add questions in the chat section. So the story for me started in 2018. This is me on the stage at the Singapore FinTech Festival, which is the largest financial technology conference in the world. I believe attracts 60,000 people from around the world. I was the keynote in 2018, and the title of my talk was "Technology is Dead," which is pretty funny because I was presenting to roughly 10,000, mostly technologists. The gist of my talk is not anti-technology. The gist of my talk then, which is kind of like the gist of my talk today, is that unless you connect the capacities of technology to the truth of our humanity, the needs, the wants, the fears, the frailties, the vulnerabilities, the hidden desires, unless you have an intimate connection between those two things, A, it's unlikely that you're going to extract maximum value out of the technology. But B, and I think as importantly, it's likely that you will create unintended and problematic consequences. And so what I said in 2018 is basically what I've said in every talk I've given since 2018, and what I will say today about artificial intelligence. extracting the value of artificial intelligence isn't about understanding it. It's actually about understanding us, because it is in service to us. We are not in service to it. So that's always the punchline of every talk I've given. In 2018, I also shared this slide, which is the classic evolution of man slide. And I always feel chauvinistic by showing this slide, because it really should be not a man. It should be a human, gender neutral. But the interesting thing about this slide is it implies evolution, obviously. And what I've come to believe is that the creature on the far left, the primate, is not that different from the creature on the far right, Homo sapien. That the needs, wants, desires, fears, frailties are fundamentally pretty similar. And so when you introduce profound technologies and they collide with those primal needs, wants, fears, desires, good things can happen, but also some really bad things can happen. If you've seen me speak, you know every presentation, pretty much I include Maslow's hierarchy of need. I won't explain Maslow. He was a psychologist. He came up with this hierarchy of need, which to me captures the fundamentals, the primal nature of man, and how on a daily basis we seek food, water, shelter, safety, comfort, very basic needs. And so when we think about the introduction of new technologies, the introduction of new products, of new capabilities, understanding that need state and understanding how these innovations are both enabling that need state or potentially creating problems for that need state is critical. And the pitch here for everybody is, how well do you understand your customers through Maslow's hierarchy? How well do we understand our employees through Maslow's hierarchy? And then how well do we understand ourselves through Maslow's hierarchy? And my belief, based on being on this earth for a fair amount of time, is we suck at this. We are not good. The biggest thing getting in the way of humans is our understanding of humans. Part of being human and part of that primal thing, and I talked about this at the Miami 2023 conference, is our nature. In the search for safety and comfort, we put everything in front of us into a box. Because boxes de facto are safe, right? They have walls, they have floors, and they have ceilings. And we're in there sucking our thumb, and everything is just fine. And so as we process all the data coming at it, and we interact with all the people in the world, we put everything and everybody in a box. Yesterday, I was with a friend of mine, and we were talking about how humans label humans. Like, we put labels on everything. We put labels on gender, we put labels on race, we put labels on everything. It applies to how we have the preferences we develop, the actions we take, the beliefs, the issues, the choices, how we view education, the boxes of education, the boxes of work. First I'm this, then I'm this, then I'm this, and really how we approach our lives. We create boxes because boxes are safe. And one of my examples of this is politics. And there's this thing, you probably have heard about MAGA, the Make America Great Again movement, which was established by, we won't share his name, but you know who. And the funny thing to me about the MAGA movement, well, not funny, haha, but funny, is most of the people that are part of it have no idea what it actually means. They can't articulate what its principles are, what its vision is, what its beliefs are, what its essential policies are. All they can tell you is that they want it. They want that box. And we see that across every aspect of society. The problem with boxes is they are false constructs. They represent false beliefs. They give us false confidence. They are fundamentally a false reality. Juxtapose, and I used this slide at the conference in May, we as humans, because we're primal and fearful creatures, try to simplify everything into a little box, whereas Mother Nature, who is sophisticated, understands that there ain't no boxes, that everything is connected to everything. that the way for the system to work is requires symbiosis and mutual reliance, and yes, a lot of complexity. So our society is already sort of treating AI like a box. And we'll talk about in a second. Some people view it as a magical, wonderful box, and some people view it as an existential threat box. This is a guy, you may have heard of him, Mark Andreessen, who founded Andreessen Horowitz, which is considered one of the top venture capital firms in the world. He is pro-box, man. He's what I call a techno-utopian. He believes that artificial intelligence will literally save the world by augmenting human intelligence and enabling us to solve very complex problems that humans thus far have not been able to solve. On the other side of the table is the box person who thinks this is going to kill the world. And this is a guy, Gary is a professor at NYU. He's a serial entrepreneur. I believe he's also a data scientist. And his view is this box, again, will kill us. It is a perfect storm of corporate irresponsibility, widespread adoption, la, 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 la. But the point is, what's in that box? You let it out of the box, we're done. And then there's a third view of the AI box, which is not sure. And this is the guy who runs Google and Alphabet. And his statement is interesting, right? He says, well, it'll have a more profound impact on humanity than fire, electricity, or the internet. But you notice he's not declaring whether that impact is positive or negative. And the answer is probably both. So the first poll we want you to do is go into the poll function off the stage function, and there's two questions there. We just want you to complete the first question, which is, are you a fan of AI or are you a foe of AI? Okay?
Yeah, well, becomes one of the answers, Chris. They started with, can you explain AI to a 10-year-old child? That's the one, okay. The first one that was out.
And then do the second one. That's out of order. That's the wrong one.
Okay.
There should be the other one there.
Yes. Let's see. Do we have result for the other one? Oh, here. Are you a fan or a foe? And 57% says that yes, a fan.
A fan. Great.
And foe was 0, but both 42.9. So
all right. All right.
57, 43.
And I think that both, that's really the point here, is that as a species, we need to look at everything through a more complex lens that we do. We have this bias towards simple box thinking, and we have this bias towards this is positive versus this is negative, this is black versus this is white. And the truth is, particularly around technology, it's both, because we can generate profound productivity gains with technology, and at the same time, we can create profound social costs. Perhaps not explicit costs, not economically related costs, but ultimately devastating costs. And that's really the message. And just to give you 3 examples on that, we're back to boxes, right? And everybody knows the Pandora's box story. So we let AI out of the box, and what happens? Or we let something called social media out of the box, and what happens? Well, on the positive side, social media allows people to connect. I mean, remember the early days of social media, and people are like, oh my God, I'm connecting with my friends from college and high school, and I'm able to stay in touch with people so much more effectively and efficiently than I was ever able to do. That's on the positive side. On the negative side, social media fosters validation addiction and causes people to start feeling less than, because they're constantly comparing themselves to everybody who has more than what they have. Another one, remote working. On the positive side, it allows people more freedom. It allows people to avoid commuting. It saves them time. On the negative side, it creates disconnection. Something like 70% of people make the majority of their friends at work. like at work. That's how you build your adult social circle. And so there's a real cost to a technology-enabled change in how people work. And then the third one I throw out is consumption, and technology has profoundly enabled consumption. I refer to it in my new book as the excess of access. And consumption on the one hand is great. We can buy more stuff, we can eat more stuff, we can wear more stuff. But the negative unintended consequences of consumption are profound. You know, fast fashion and its impact on the environment is horrifying. Food consumption and the consumption of sugar is its impact on obesity rates. Consumption just as a form of addiction and eating disorders. And the point is not to say we should be anti-consumption, anti-remote working, anti-AI. It's to say, as a species, as leaders, whether it's leaders of our families, leaders of our countries, leaders of our companies, we have a responsibility to look at these new technologies, new quote unquote advancements through a much more expansive and complex lens to make sure that we are both taking advantage of the potential while mitigating the risks of the unintended consequences. So very quickly, and I probably should have started with this, is this question of, well, what is AI exactly? Like, what are we actually talking about? And this goes to the funny thing about humans, the primal nature of humans. We will actually talk about stuff that we don't understand. And I go back to the days of crypto and how many conversations I had with people who were like, crypto is going to change everything. Crypto is going to replace central bank currencies. Crypto is the solution to every problem that exists. And then I would say, can you just explain what it is? And that's where they're like, and obviously that's imprudent, it's unhealthy, it's problematic. But as a species, we tend to do this. We tend to bet mightily on things that we don't actually understand. So this is the question that should have come second. If you go back into the poll, and I ask you to be honest, we don't know who's answering what, so just be perfectly honest. How well do you think you could explain artificial intelligence to a 10-year-old? Or doesn't even matter how old they are, to somebody?
Like you said, to be honest, because definitely, yes, is a 62.5%, but no 37.5%. So it's pretty high.
Yeah. And I'm not saying, guys, that we should all be able to explain AI to a 10-year-old child. That is not what I'm implying here. What I'm implying here is, before we establish our position about the potential of AI, the role of AI, how we fit it into our companies, how we fit it into our lives, we owe ourselves and each other effort to better understand it. Before we attach to the MAGA movement, we need to understand the MAGA movement. Before we decide we're a Democrat, we need to understand what it means to be a Democrat. Before we declare we're Christian, we need to understand what Christian means. But because we are so seduced by these simple boxes, we just hold up the box. Like, look at the box, Mom. Look at the box. You're like, you don't even know what's in the box. So, and this is my point. Like, we don't know what it is, but we're fully behind it. You're like, well, that's interesting. So, the first thing about AI, here's my version. What is it exactly? It is not a box. It is not a box. And I came up with this metaphor in my wacky brain. It's an octopus. It's this multi-tentacled creature that has this unique brain. It's really smart. It's very adaptive, and it's really good at escaping small places. It's really good at finding its way into nooks and crevices and doing things. And I think the point here is think of AI not as a thing, but as a almost like a an ether, an intellectual ether that we're going to need to learn how to take in, how to breathe in, and how to integrate with the oxygen that we require to create not just more productivity, because that's I think the wrong way to think about it, but to create better lives for more people. That I think is the right way to think about it. So this is Andreessen Horowitz, Mark Andreessen's definition of AI. And it's really, I highlighted generate knowledge because I think that's the distinction. And I'll come back to that in a second. This is ChatGPT's definition of AI, and it's problem solving like humans. By the way, ChatGPT also goes on to sort of break out the 5 components of AI, or the 5 types of AI. And in my quest to learn more about it, I thought this was a really simple and an effective way of explaining, call it the 5 different facets or manifestations of artificial intelligence. So, and if anybody wants this document, contact us. I'm happy to share it with you. Okay, this is ironic, right? I decided to put my definition of artificial intelligence into a box, a very simple box. So in my pea brain, what this is about a learning computer, not literally a computer, but learning technology. And that is very different than the technology we have today on our computers. Even Google is not a learning, when you Google something, you're basically accessing a database of fixed data, and then it's serving it up. But AI and all of its manifestations are far more dynamic, obviously. We can't do this because of our poll limitations, so we're going to skip these 2 questions. So, but here's what I did in putting this together. I'm like, okay, so I'm going to try really hard, and I'm not going to use ChatGPT. What do I believe are the biggest benefits of artificial intelligence, and what are the biggest costs? And so here's my attempt. Remember, I'm a novice at this. I am by no means expert. So here's my attempt at answering those 2 questions. So on the plus side, I looked at it through 2 lenses. Call it structural, societal. Could apply to a company, country, and a family, doesn't matter. So what I got to was speed to answers. So, Maria and I were talking about something this morning, and I'm like, you just go, Google is speed to answers too, but with ChatGPT, you actually get a more structured answer specific to your very specific question. So speed to answers, Mark Andreessen's version, speed to solutions, to better solutions, speed to content. I'm seeing this, we're seeing this at FinTech Americas. You can pretty much now write anything. I have a friend of mine who wrote a book and then had ChatGPT edit the whole thing. Obviously, the skills required to use AI, whether they're data science skills or ChatGPT query skills, there's a whole job creation positive associated with this. And then one of the big positives that's talked about is this idea that it replaces what I call human commodity jobs, relatively low value jobs that can be done with artificial intelligence, or those five manifestations, which sets up the human positive. Besides general productivity, is this theory that we have more time to focus on adding more value. So instead of us being tasked with doing commodity jobs, ChatGPT does the commodity job, and we can then spend our quality time coming up with even bigger ideas. That's on the plus side. On the minus side, and there are many, one of the big ones is scams and fraud, and you're reading all about this already. Like, how do you even know if this is real, whether the content is real, the image is real? I saw a photo the other day of Biden and Trump, who was it? And they were dressed in Barbie, the movie Barbie. They were dressed all in pink, and it was like, or I think there's a photo of the Pope in an astronaut's outfit. But there's much more nefarious versions of fraud to come as people as the dark players figure out how to use the technology. Job losses for sure. Those commodity jobs are going to go away. Job changes are certainly a factor, and some people aren't going to like those changes. And then I call out as a big negative that it replaces human commodity work. You're like, well, wait a second. That was a positive. Like, why is that a negative? In part because we may not be able to go to this is my point here. We may not be able to go to the added value place that artificial intelligence sets up, that AI sets up for us. There's a presumption that if you take away those basic tasks and we are left with more time, that we will be able to fill that time with higher value production. And I am not 100%, I am not convinced that that is in fact true. So the net is, if you look at those two slides, AI, it's both. The answer is both. It's not the Andreessen, this is the solution to everything, and it's not the other guy, this is going to kill us, absolutely. It's both, but only if we manage it as both. If we blindly follow the positives and ignore the negatives, it's a problem. And if we blindly follow the negatives and don't try to take advantage of the positives, it's a problem. So the last piece of this, you go, well, what do we do about the negatives? What should we do about this possibility that we can't step into the void created by the commodity jobs being removed? And I started thinking about it in sort of three different ways: societal version, company version, personal version. And as I thought about society, what would I wish upon global society, US society? And it would be a commitment to these 6 things. Human first, which is my whole thing. Like, you cannot keep unleashing forces like technology and capitalism without more direct and intimate consideration of human frailties, fears, needs, wants. Go back to social media and the consequences. Look at the consequences of user-generated technology or user-generated content. We now have conspiracy theories galore because there are no guardrails, there are no filters. It's just the Wild West of people declaring and saying what are largely or often untruths or half-truths. So human first, which we're not good at. Guardrails, which the EU is working on. America is just beginning to work on. Like, how do we get this thing, pun intended, back in a box? Education. This is a big one. Like, if we're worried about people's ability to step into the void created by AI and create more value, more intellectual value, they have to be prepared for that. And our education system is not, at least in the United States, is certainly nowhere near delivering on that. I think we have to worry about mental health and the fear that this technology and its spawn will create. Obviously, cyber protection, that's like mother and apple pie. And then we've got to create a system where we are actively monitoring and responding how everything's reacting to these developments. And at least, again, in America, we're not very good at that. As I thought about companies and then individually, what was funny, not funny, haha, I came up with the exact same list. It's like we all need to apply the rigor of, well, what does this really mean? And how do we mitigate the unintended consequences? How do we educate ourselves and each other to be able to step into that void? How do we make sure that the mental health of the people who work for us and ourselves is improving, not worsening, et cetera, et cetera. So the final truth from my perspective is the species is primal, and we're not very good at seeking the truth. We prefer the false safety of boxes. But I think the most important point here is, as a rule, we are actually okay with okay. And the problem with okay is AI is going to deliver okay. So when AI takes okay away from us, what's left for us? When AI can serve up pretty decent whatever without any human involvement, what is left for us? So I bring this all down to artificial intelligence is not an existential threat. It's an existential motivator to deliver more than okay. at an individual level, at a company level, and at a societal level. So how do you get to okay? I'll leave you with these 5 things. Again, it applies to all 3 contexts. Number 1, we have got to set a higher bar on distinct value creation. If all those mundane white-collar jobs are going to go away because computers, AI-enabled computing can do them for us, what's left for us? We have to set the bar higher. With that, a commitment to intellectual rigor. You know that 40% of American adults who graduated from university never read another book. We've got to commit to lifelong learning, which is this 3rd point. Not just learning, but unlearning and relearning. And point 4 is we've got to think like Mother Nature. If we think like boxes, we're screwed. And then point 5 is rejecting the status quo of everything. And interestingly, I came up with this for this talk, and then I realized I said the exact same thing at the Miami 2023 conference. Not through the lens of AI, but through the lens of the need for infinite adaptation. These 5 capacities are essential for any entity to survive, whether it's an individual, a company, or a country. So again, my view, it's a motivator. Pluses and minuses, we need to embrace both. We need to put it through the filter of our human understanding, which we have to elevate. But fundamentally, we need to get better at accepting that okay is no longer good enough. So with that, I thank you. Sorry to speak for so long, and I will shut this off and we can chat.
Yes, and we have questions, Chris, but yes. I love it. I love that you got to the same conclusions, when you took into account the society, the company, and the personal. But I think you provided a very nice view because, that there is hope. The thing is that if we are smart enough to use it to our advantage. So if some things are removed from us, but still, okay, where are we position ourselves? And that's up to us to really reposition. And,
I think, the thing that, you've heard me say this before. I probably said it on the last call. Like, it is the understanding of us that is the linchpin or the key to realizing the potential of anything. Like, that applies to marriages, right? Like I'm going to pretend Maria and I are married. Like, our ability to forge an amazing relationship is predicated on me understanding the most intimate truth of her and her understanding the most intimate truth of me. So as we think about deploying artificial intelligence, we have to understand more intimately us and how its capacities will both benefit us and its capacities will hurt us and its capacities will motivate us to do things that are actually ultimately unhealthy or don't serve us. But the problem with that scenario, including the marriage scenario, is that requires work.
Think hard. That's
right. It's hard, and it's not binary. Is a marriage a box? Well, I know some marriages are boxes. I don't think they're particularly successful marriages, but a marriage is like 2 octopuses doing this. And it's fluid and dynamic and complex, and we have to just accept that that is our reality, and that is both the reality and the opportunity. So, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have a question from Raquel Cabrera. She says
he's been on the show before.
Yeah, she says artificial intelligence applied to fields that encourage the human evolution and the like basic needs like health, food, security, can be a quantic jump for humanity. But then she brings up the example of what happened in the entertainment industry, where the actors were publicly mobilized because of the supplantation of humans through AI in the digital world. And so she says, do you consider possible a global agreement to redirect the efforts to the important things for the human evolution? So do you reconsider that there can be an agreement, like at the global level to redirect the efforts?
So this is the manuscript of my book, Technology is Dead. And Rekha, that question is excellent. Here's our collective dilemma. This goes beyond AI. We now as a species have multiple existential threats. Climate, AI, cyber, negative birth rates. What am I missing? There are pandemics. And all of those threats do not acknowledge borders.
Mm-hmm.
Like COVID didn't go, oh, look, over there's China. I think I'll approach it this way. And over there's America. I think I'll approach it this way. All of them are truly global and truly existential. And so how do you deal with a global existential threat in a nationalistic way? It doesn't make any sense because they're all borderless. The enemy is no longer defined and the enemy no longer adheres to borders. And then you look at our global governing systems and basically there are none. I mean, you can say that we have the World Trade Organization and the World Health Organization and the United Nations, but they are completely unempowered. They have no real authority. Go back to COVID. Look at how the world responded to COVID. We didn't actually respond to COVID. Countries responded to COVID and made the problem that much worse. So my hopeful answer is we're going to have to create a governing body on these existential threats, beginning with climate. I mean, my theory is what's happening with climate right now, at least what we're seeing in the United States, well, in other parts of the world, we're pushing people to the edge of, oh, we really do need to behave differently, and oh, we really do need to govern differently. Now, whether ego and power, whether people can put those two things down and say, let's work together, I don't know. Mm-hmm. I'll probably be dead though.
Yes. Well, we have something related to Raquel's questions from Vicente Aguilar. How we can fight AI is used more actively in the organized crime, a fact that always happens. They are always ahead. And that goes that, okay, there are no borders anymore for anything. So it's hard to determine how we manage.
Well, I mean, yes. Yes, I think the thing that I want, and this may be naive, well, the United States under Obama had a chief technology officer. I don't know if that was his title, but Obama had a guy in charge of stewarding the technology conversation for the country, including, innovation areas to invest in, to encourage, to enable in the private sector, and also matters like guardrails. We no longer have that job. So what I'm after at a global level is, can we create a body that is working together to look at all the advancements through the lens of the human truth? Mm-hmm. And that's really my refrain. Like we jump right over it and look at the technologies and the productivity benefits of the technology with zero or very limited consideration of how humans might be hurt by it, might abuse it, might take advantage of it. And that's what we need to do. So to your point, we need a body. It can't, there's this presumption that the private sector will somehow police itself.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's not going to happen. That is not going to happen. So, Vicente, I hope we respond to your question. And we have an interesting one from Isaí Romero. How to get to calm down all of those that believe that AI will end up with the humanity? And again, that goes to the fear.
Is the question like to calm down all the people that think AI?
Everybody that believes, yes, that artificial intelligence will end up with humanity. I think it's this, technology taking over, like some of the movies that we have seen.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good question.
Yeah. Humans, yes.
Yeah, I think that's a good question, and there is no simple answer, right? There are no boxes. The boxes are a false construct. All there is complexity, and I think the only way we can respond to grossly simple views like this thing's going to kill us, therefore shut it down, is to study, is to actually learn more about it. And to be able to explain to those that don't understand it why it's not necessarily true. That's part one. I think part two is becoming activists in what I've been talking about. So the end of my book, Technology is Dead, I call for what I'm terming a human revolution. I'm calling for leaders in every level of society to step forward and say, let us get at the front of technology. Let us put human in understanding as the intention of technology, human benefits beyond economic gain as the intention, the goal of technology. And let us do that at a systems level, local, country, global. Let us do it in our homes. Like here's one. I was talking to a guy the other day about, he has an 8-year-old kid and the kid wants a smartphone. And I'm like, and I'm not saying he shouldn't give his child a smartphone, but I am saying he and his wife or partner should talk about what are the unintended consequences of that. Mm-hmm. And they should study about how smartphones have contributed to issues of loneliness and depression among young people, attention deficit disorder. And I'm not saying they're negative. I'm just saying do the homework. Don't immediately put a smartphone for the 8-year-old in the positive box or the negative box. It's not a box. Put it in the, I need to understand this more so I understand the real risks and I understand the real rewards. That's what we all need to do. And again, it's back to the marriage. Like nobody wants to do that. It's like my little daughter wants a phone. Fuck it, give her a phone.
Oh, you're gonna love this one because it seems that Edmundo Ramirez, read your mind. He says, "I'm more concerned with ignorance than artificial intelligence. What do you think about this opinion?" Okay.
I mean, Edmundo, this scares me. People think I'm smart, and I am not smart. I know. I'm not, Maria. I'm not looking for compliments. I know that I am not. I mean, I know some brilliant people. I am not brilliant. What I am is I'm trying really, really hard to understand what the hell is really, really going on. And that's the opposite of ignorance. The opposite of ignorance isn't brilliance, right? The opposite of ignorance is trying really hard to understand what is going on. And so most people don't try. Most marriages fail, and they'll just give you the simple box answer of, well, we fell out of love. And I don't buy it. I think what's going on is a lot more complicated. But because it's work and it's uncomfortable and requires listening and communicating what you think and how you feel, and it requires studying and research and talking to other people, people are like, fuck it. I don't get it. So I think you're absolutely right. And this is my point about the existential motivation of AI for me is okay is no longer good enough. The machines can deliver okay really, really well. And so if we're in the same game as them, we lose. There is no role for us. And so the fear mongers are correct. But there is a role for us. But we have to let go of our ignorance and engage and commit to using the gift we've been given, you know? But I love that. That was great.
And to outsmart. And here it goes to the Nuncio Di Paolo, says, how long do you consider that artificial intelligence will have a real impact in the society, in the companies, in the business world?
Well, I go back to Pichot from Google's quote that it will have greater impact than the fire, electricity, and the internet. I actually do believe, and this is not a fan or faux statement, I do believe it will change everything. I mean, you have to remember, humans, up until 30, 40 years ago, humans did the work. You know, maybe we used horses and mules, but we did the work. And now all of a sudden you have an entity that can do the work. And not only can it do the work, it can actually learn and do the work better and better and better. And so, you know, a society is based on, its economic capacity is based on entities doing work. And so if all of a sudden 80% of the work can be done not by humans, that's a forever impact. So this you know, and probably AI will, you know, there'll be another generation of this thing called something else. And we're gonna keep going. I think the issue is, again, though, is not the worry about AI. The issue is we have to put human understanding and human benefit beyond economic gain as the means and the measure of all this. Like, if you make economic productivity and gross domestic product the only measure that we care about, you will leave a lot of people on the side of the road. And the divides that we're seeing, particularly in the Western world, will only get wider and wider and wider. And eventually you'll end up with, 50% of the population jobless. And maybe, on welfare or whatever. And so, again, the human thing is the variable, guys, that matters the most. And that's the thing to worry about, not the technology. The technology is going to keep coming at us. We know that.
Well, that answer lead us the way to interesting, and you're going to enjoy this one, from Daniel Garcia Spiros. Have you thought that the way in that we are educating, it should change rapidly? Especially, teenagers are doing their homework projects using ChatGPT, and they are not learning as they should. And this takes me to this morning, because we were like before this show, but you will be happy to know that we were talking exactly about that. And it was a moral dilemma, it was an intellectual dilemma, or what was it? So,
well, there's this conceit that if they use ChatGPT for their homework, then that's a good thing, because then they'll be able to apply themselves to something else. You're like, but they need to learn the basics in order to apply themselves. It's like, if I say to Maria, I want to be a professional athlete, she's going to say, well, the first thing you need to do is you need to learn how to run. I'm like, no, I'm going to use ChatGPT to learn how to run. It will do the running. I just want to be the professional athlete. You need to walk before you run. You need to learn. Like here's my example. I think GPS is a problem. I actually think calculators are a problem, because when people stop using their brain for fundamental things, it doesn't mean they automatically are good at the more sophisticated things. I told a story the other day at FinTech Americas when I was 23 years old, and I was like this rock star in this company that hired me. And the president gave me my review, and he said, Chris, the only issue I have with your performance is I think you don't think enough. And I won't tell him, well, I told him to fuck off. And then 3 months later, I realized what he was talking about. We need to learn how to think. We need to learn how to be rigorous. We need to learn how to be conceptual. And we've gotten away with not that. Most of us have jobs that don't really require any of those things. And ChatGPT is going to take them away. Or not ChatGPT, AI is going to take them away. So I believe as companies, we need to be really careful about how we're deploying things like ChatGPT, because it's possible that people will be doing their job simply by going to ChatGPT and it is doing the job. Mm-hmm. And the consequence of that is those people are actually not learning. Those people are actually not using their brain. They are not trying to solve a puzzle. They are not connecting dots. Critical thinking is critical. But the only way you learn, you don't like come out of the womb going, hey, I know how to think critically. You learn how to think critically. And so beware that, well, I'm just going to use ChatGPT. It'll provide the answer and I'll sit on the sidelines. Like, I think it's a slippery slope to hell, to productivity, to human accomplishment. How was your day, honey? Oh, I did 100 ChatGPT inquiries.
But even to discern what is good or what is not good, you have to have some criteria, because if not, you put the first thing that shows up there, and sometimes it's not exactly the same, or it doesn't respond to the query, etc. So you really need to apply your criteria. So, but yes, we can use it both ways. And well, Rodrigo Carrasco here, he says, I agree with the problem with AI is not that it will replace human commodity jobs. The problem is that we are not ready for AI replacing those jobs. We should be thinking on changing our society based on that premise. That means, I guess, I don't know, different careers, different job opportunities. We have to train people, true. Because
good question, Rodrigo. I have said in a lot of my talks, the answer is education. And the truth is, in the United States, our education system is pretty much educating people for the 1990s, maybe the early 2000s. It's not educating them for a world that is changing as radically and rapidly as our world is changing. I think most of our core systems, healthcare, education, finance, have fallen so far behind the needs of society that it's arguably another existential threat, that we are simply not preparing our youth to be able to create value the way we now will need to create value. I mean, the college experience I went through in retrospect was just terrible. It's boxes. Take 7 classes, box, box, box. Take a test, box, box, box. Pass the test. Here's the diploma. Here's your box. You're now a college graduate. It was not examining how well I really understood my human potential and how well equipped I was to deal with complexity and rapid change. When I went to college, I don't even think the word innovation was used.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Well, no, of course not.
And I think, I used to run the Harvard Innovation Lab, and the funny thing about it is the Harvard Innovation Lab was a building on the edge of campus, and then over here were the 12 other Harvard schools teaching the same way they've taught for 40 years. So they turned innovation into a box called the Harvard Innovation Lab and said, hey, kids, go in the box. But when you're done, come back to our box, the traditional school, and we're going to teach you the traditional way on the traditional subjects. We are failing our youth mightily. And so are parents, by the way. I think the lack of education at home in support of becoming an adaptive human being and okay with change and intellectually rigorous, and you know how many households they don't read a thing? Mm-hmm. Like there's not a book in the place. Like, oh, that's terrible. Anyway, I think we're out of time.
Yes, we are out of time. For those that are asking if we can share the presentation, yes, as Chris says, we can share the presentation, so we will take care of that. So, and along with the Q&A, please. Okay, so excellent. Okay. So, Chris, again, another incredible episode with you. Thank you for your thoughtfulness. Yeah. Thank you for preparing, because you always come up with different things. And what I love is like you always give us this hope of what's coming and how, as humans, we are empowered. We are not. We are empowered. The thing is, okay, be smart to see in what position we take regarding of everything that is happening in the world.
Thank you for saying that. And again, it's, this is an existential motivator. I don't think going through life as AI as an existential threat is either healthy or helpful or right. I get excited about the ability to take our game up a level, to create more value, to have bigger, bolder, better ideas, to figure out ways to solve endemic problems. And by the way, I'll say to the audience who's still on, like, you motivate me. Like the fact that you guys showed up today with Maria and I and wanted to talk about this stuff and understand the answer is both. It's not always yes or no or right or left, is really, gives me hope. So thank you for participating.
Yes, I think these episodes, the other ones are sometimes more technical, but this, I take it as a time for us to think about us. It's like, yes, it will be caring about what we want to do, how we're going to position, what we want our future to look like, what we have to learn. So I think from that point of view, always the view from the edge is very empowering. And thank you, Chris.
You're welcome. Thanks, everybody. All right.
So, okay, these 60 minutes flew away, and I'm afraid that brings us to the end of our episode of The View from the Edge. An incredible session. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for participating so actively. We hope that we respond most of the questions. Well, you see the benefits, the challenges that we have, the relationship between humans and machines, and covering the intricate ways to complement. But we know it is possible. So I hope that you feel this message as empowering to you, to your life, and to be applied to your company life, but also to your personal life. As we move forward, this is a zero-sum game between humans and machines. It's not that. It's an opportunity to us to leverage technology to our advantage. Before I let you go, let me tell you about our next FATV episode. Is going to be a deep dive on a cashless society, the future of digital payments. Make sure that you register. We have 5 C-level executives from Santander, Mexico, Bancaribe, Banco BCI, Scotiabank, and Kushki. So please don't miss this opportunity. It's going to be Thursday, August 10 at 10 a.m. Eastern time. Of course, please save the date if you didn't do so yet, for May 7 and 8 at the Fontainebleau in Miami Beach for our in-person meeting of the community. Thank you again very much for joining us. It is a pleasure to serve you.